Okay, hello and welcome, and thank you all for joining us. Hey, I have a small request of Critical Cripple, who I see is in the chat. I started tagging a bunch of people to let them know that the show is starting, but I got started late on the tagging. If you could take over for me and just tag a few more people for me, please, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. And before we go any further, first I want to say hello to all of my guests. Thank you all for coming, and a special thank you to Cynthia McDonald, because this is the first time that I have had Cynthia on my channel, although I've seen Cynthia on a number of other people's channels. So let's go ahead and go around and introduce ourselves. And since this is your first time on my channel, Cynthia, we'll let you go first.
Ooh, I feel honored. Hey, everybody. How you guys doing? My name is Cynthia McDonald. I am from Chicago, Illinois. I am a social worker. I am also half host of a socio-political show called The 13% that talks about politics as it relates to Black people in the United States. I also write a blog called ADOSHealthandWellness.com. It is a blog talking about the social disparity, the social determinants of health, rather, of Black folk in America. And I'm very happy to be here. And I'm also very much so an atheist.
That is so cool. I did not know that you were a social worker. I am a Kaja. Well, a CASA in most of the country. And I tell people, good social workers love us. Bad social workers hate us.
I will feel the same way about myself.
Julie, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Julie. I've forgotten how cameras work. There we go. Got it. Okay. Hi, I'm Julie. I do Wine and Reason on Tuesday nights Tuesday afternoons. My gosh, I've had a busy day. Other than that, I'm a technical writer looking for work. So, hey, there's that. Y'all hear of anything, let me know. I'm a proud atheist heathen, and I'm really thrilled to be here.
Okay, and B.
Hi, I'm B. My channel is The Family, which focuses on mental health, which I haven't been able to do lately due to internet issues, which will be fixed in the next week and a half to 2 weeks. So that's a good thing. I can start doing streaming again. So if I buffer, that's why. I am, I don't know what to call myself, agnostic or anti-theist or atheist.
Okay. Jen.
Yep, there you go. There's the buffering.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were.
That's okay. No, that's fine. Please move on. I hate talking about myself.
Oh,
love saying about you though. I'm Jen from Jen's Little Corner. I do science and LGBT content. I'm also doing a couple of documentary style stuff coming up. I keep telling people I'm doing these videos, and I have not had time due to family stuff over the last week or two to actually do any editing at all. So there will be some content coming out on my channel, but you're just going to have to wait a little while longer. Sorry.
How dare you? You're only
waiting with bated breath.
I get in the fucking way sometimes.
I've been a little behind myself on my own channel. I didn't do a stream last week, and I was, it took me 2 weeks to put out the video because I got a new case as a CASA worker, and so I had a whole bunch of people to go visit in the first week that I have a new case. Unlike social workers like Cynthia, we usually only have 1 or 2 cases. The social workers have 80. And so it's hard for them to see people as often as we can. So when I get a new case, in the first week, I go see everybody on the case. And so the first week that I have a new case, I'm really busy. And that's why I've been a little behind on my own channel as well. I don't know how you people do it with so many cases. I've never had more than 4 at a time.
Well, one of the things about me is my actual title is called patient navigator. So I case manage people who are not case managed. So
Ah.
I get, so the people that I get oftentimes are like, people who are looking for resources and they don't necessarily have like, a case manager that they can go to like consistently. So, but the people who are requesting services is pretty high, especially now that we're within the pandemic. So, I'm constantly talking to people like all day. And sometimes 2-3 times a day. Like, did you get this? Did you send this back? Did you do this? Did you sign this? Okay, well, if you don't sign it, I can't do this, Y, X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that's definitely my life right now.
Mm. Yeah, for me, it's been a little weird too, because I've done a couple of virtual hearings. And we did one in-person hearing where 2 people appeared virtually, but everyone else was there in person. And I've done a couple of visits with kids that were virtual, one in particular because I visited a child at a daycare, and then the next day I visited 4 adults, and it was just too much exposure to visit this child the following day. So I visited that child virtually. Okay, let's get to our topic of the day, which is a woman's job. And the topic was actually Bee's idea. And I really liked the idea because I've had a couple people tweeting at me that a woman's job is to stay home and raise children. And I thought everybody here might have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I just want
No, none of us have an opinion on that.
Gosh, no. Excuse me while I grab my wine.
I have gnats. Listen, I'm not secretly drinking, y'all. I have gnats in the house. So there is wine in this cup. It just has a lid on it because I don't want to find dead floating bugs in my wine. That's great. Just to speak to that for a few seconds about the woman's work bullshit is, I don't know. I think we're all of an age in this group where we were taught, I know I was, don't expect some sweet thing to come along and take care of you, because that's done. And also, in my mind, I was always like, why would I want that? Like, and this is when I was a kid. This is when I thought, I might want to have a family someday. I might want to be a mom and all of that. But I also wanted something else in my life. I wanted to have my own money. I always remember that line. A woman needs, I wanted to be a writer. So a woman needs a room of her own and money in order to work, right? You have to have that. And it just, the thought of being completely financially dependent on someone else absolutely terrifies me. Now, again, there are many women in my family who have chosen that very path, and they are very happy, and that's fine. The point is that they had the choice. It wasn't forced upon them. So that's my thesis on that. Yes.
Julie, I'm not that far from that. I mean, like, I remember asking my mother a long time ago, how do you become rich? And she said to me, you work really hard. And I was like, well, fuck, I've been working hard all my damn life. I ain't seen rich in my bank account yet.
Yeah.
However,
Same.
but here's the thing, like, when you say, like, what is a woman's job, and it's, to please her partner or what have you and all this other stuff. I've always been like of that mind that I'm very concerned that what happens, like, if my partner is not really feeling me anymore and I'm completely financially dependent on them, right? And as much as, like, I'm in a relationship and I'm very happy with my partner, but at the same time, I still have, like, these incessant fears of, what happens if you not necessarily don't like what I say, or if I having a bad day and you just happen to catch it that day, I mean, like, and you decide you just say fuck it and you just walk away, like, what do you do then? And it's kind of like when even listening to like my mom and even my dad, you know, they were basically always telling me, okay, like, you know, you just need to get a job and get educated and just that's what your focus is, right? So, you know, my whole thing was like, let me finish school because this is hard, and let me find you know, like a job that I can kind of take care of myself. So just in case, like, you know, if a relationship works out, that's great, and I definitely welcome that. But at the same time, I can't completely depend upon that because I don't know how dependable that is.
Oh,
I'm what you said was amazing. That face was for Andrew's comment. Ouch. Oh. Same, Jen?
I
Same?
actually
no,
grew
no,
up.
no, it's that, my face was for the same thing. That comment.
Okay, sorry.
My parents were I mean, of course, I had a slightly different upbringing to you guys, so but but my parents were very pro. You've got to look out for yourself first. Even though Mum was very much an at-home mum, she did work. She worked when my siblings were younger, but by the time I came around, she wasn't working. She was a stay-at-home mum. But Dad was earning enough money that it didn't matter, and they could make that work, and that was better than having, you know, childcare at the time, because you know, years ago childcare was next to impossible to get, especially at any decent rate. So it actually worked.
Still true where I live. That is, I literally have friends whoever was making the most money, regardless of gender in the relationship, decided to stay home with the kids because once they had the second or third kid, they couldn't afford daycare anymore, and it was literally more than they made. So
it was way too expensive. So that was the way they went with that. I mean, Dad was a deputy school principal, so he was on reasonably good money. So it made sense for him to work and Mum to stay home. So, but they were both very much of, you kids have to get out, you have to get a job, you have to work. And all of us have, and all of us have worked hard. I mean, I say that, but given that I've spent the last 10 years looking after my daughter who's got chronic depression, as you guys know, I haven't worked as hard in the last 10 years in an actual job. In looking after her, I've worked my ass off, but in an actual job, I've only worked part-time. But I've done what I can do, and I've always felt that I need to do not doing anything doesn't suit me. I can't do that. I can't think that way. It's not the way I was brought up, and I don't like being dependent on other people. It's actually been a couple of banes in a few of the relationships I've had, especially with guys. It's been okay when I've had relationships with other women, because I don't think there's as much when you have a lesbian relationship. There's not as much competitiveness over who earns the most money.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I can see it. But
I'm glad you're agreeing with me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
When you're in a relationship with a guy, a lot of guys really don't like it if you're earning more money than them.
Yeah,
and
I've heard of this.
About that.
I've not experienced it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, the couple of guys I've dated, we ended up breaking up purely because I was earning more money.
Oh,
really?
God.
Yeah, they couldn't handle it. At the time, I was on a reasonably good job, and this was quite a few years ago now. But I was earning about $70,000 a year, and one of the guys I remember who was on about $45,000 a year, and it just drove him insane. He said, "I should be for everything and supplying everything, and I don't feel like a man anymore. You've emasculated me." I'm only earning more money. That's all.
Wow.
Okay.
I wonder what if it has more so to do with, like, you know, what we're taught, like how a household should be ran. Like, of course, like especially like if you're in like a heterosexual relationship, you know, like the man is supposed to be like the breadwinner, and the woman is supposed to be taking care of the house, and if that wasn't the case, then it's going to be problematic. And I just like to say, but I love you, Arthur. One of the comments that you showed, that's actually my partner, but I love you so much. but but at the same time, I guess like even for me, I don't necessarily.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at this quote on the screen.
Oh, it said when a woman earns more money, she is more likely to give the guy the boot and disrespect him. Well, to say something to that effect, I think that really has to go more so than that particular person's character. I've been in relationships where I've earned more, and I've been in relationships where the guy earned more of me. But at the same time, I don't want to take away from that particular person's humanity, character, anything like that, just because I may have more money at that particular time. And also for oftentimes, like, my whole thing is like, okay, you work, I work, like, can we just build together? You know what I'm saying? Instead of just like us, like, trying to like have a piston contest about, who gonna, bring more home than the other. I know that me personally, I don't care. Like, I just try to, like, give as much respect to another person as possible, as they and hopefully that's reflected, regardless of like who has more money versus who doesn't. I just think that, especially like nowadays, depending on where you live, like all of us like earn a lot of us earn less than what you can even earn by yourself to even live comfortably.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
if Junk Shop and I hadn't moved in together, I would have had to keep living with my parents. Like I can't afford this place on my own. Well, okay, I could before I got laid off, but back then when I was still teaching and we moved in together, I could not. So, but yeah, it's but the other thing too is, like, if you don't have at least what I call walking around money, like access to some money in your pocket, you are at a disadvantage, and so I don't like it. Like, I agree to a fair, like, division of like household labor. Like, I'll do this stuff if you do that stuff. That's cool, and that way nobody feels, over. Like, if you've just been 9 hours at the office and you've done an hour and a half round trip commute or whatever it is, and you get home and there's piles of dishes in the sink and you need to make dinner and the bathroom's a mess, and that can be like the most awful time of your day, and it shouldn't be. Like, coming home could be a good part of your day, right? So as long as it's fair. And so I don't know. That's why I love the term partner, because that's what it means. It's like, I don't care as much about monetary contribution as I do about, like, we're making this work, whatever it is, together. And
I come from a rather unusual situation in that I was raised in the 60s and 70s, and both of my parents had college degrees, which was not all that unusual for my dad, but it was for my mother, because my mom got her RN when she was, in the 1950s. But she also got married right out of nursing school. And, oops, sorry. That's Robin. I don't know why Robin is texting me when Robin is in the chat too.
Hi, Robin.
Anyway, my mom got, most women who went to nursing school at that time were diploma nurses, but not my mother. She had a 4-year college degree from the University of Michigan. And my mom also knew that as soon as she got pregnant, she'd be fired. And that's exactly what happened. She and my dad got married when she was only 6 months out of nursing school. And as soon as she got pregnant, which was 3 months after they got married, she was fired. And she stayed home until my youngest brother was in kindergarten. And then she went back to school. And so we were unusual again in that we had 2 working parents. Well, actually, no, I take it back. She went back to work originally because my dad was laid off. And so for the first year that she was working, my dad was home. But then after that, we had 2 working parents, which was not the norm. It was just starting to become in vogue for both parents to be working.
Mhm.
And then, all of us kids went and graduated and went to college and got degrees. And my mom was so thrilled that, both of her daughters had degrees and were going to be career women. But then I went and married an Army man. And the first 13 years of our marriage, we were moving from base to base to base.
Mhm.
And even though I have a law degree, I couldn't do anything with it because nobody was going to hire me knowing that I was moving in 2 to 3 years. And we did finally settle down in a place, and I did work for 10 years for an insurance company. And I did have a good start then, but frankly, it nearly drove me crazy because at that point, my 2 older girls were toddlers. And whenever I was at work, I wanted to be home with my kids. And whenever I was home with my kids, I was worried about the fact that I wasn't getting my work done.
Yeah.
And it was driving me nuts. And so after working there for 10 years, by that point, we no longer needed my income. And I said to my husband, what if we had another one? And that's how Robin came to be. And that's why there is a 12-year gap between Robin and Robin's next older sibling, is because at that point we no longer needed 2 incomes and I could stay home. And I felt so much better having Robin and staying home and being home with one of my kids. And I know that's not, what everyone aspires to, but I really enjoyed staying home with Robin.
We're glad you're here, Robin.
Yeah, we're glad.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jen.
No. I said what you said basically.
Well,
Go.
I was just gonna say I was the first person. I'm the youngest of 4, and I was the first person in my immediate family to graduate from college. My mom was told she was the oldest, but thank you, but she was told by her mom, and now my grandmother had to quit school in the 8th grade to help support her younger siblings. Okay, so yeah, keep in mind this is very much so she had gotten all of her daughters and her one son through high school. So I imagine that felt like an accomplishment to my grandmother, who died before I was born. I never met her, but that would seem like, to someone who had to quit school in the 8th grade, I think that would feel good. My mom wanted to go to college, and her mother told her, it's more important for your brother to go. You're a woman, you can get married. And so my mom didn't, and I asked her about that years later because she told this story so many times, and I said, Mom, you made good grades in high school, right? And she said, oh yeah, I had a like a 3.9 average. And I was like, okay, not as well as I did. How? I mean, she did so much. No, I'm take that back, reverse it. She did so much better than I did. And I was like, okay, so why didn't you just get a scholarship and go to college anyway? And she said, oh, honey, you've grown up in a completely different world than I did. I didn't, because my mother said no. And I said, but you were 18. And she said, different worlds. Like,
you know what? I heard a similar story from my mom. So my mom's an immigrant from Jamaica. And she was always like regarded as like extremely smart. And she wanted to be a doctor. So she, when she immigrated here, she was sent for by my grandfather. And so she had this expectation that, I'm going to go to college, finish my 4-year undergrad, and then I'm going to go to med school. And my grandfather said, no, that's not in the cards for you. You don't necessarily need to do that, even though like you have enough education as a woman as it is.
Oh,
yeah.
Now, right?
Yeah, I mean, like she still like ended up becoming like a professional in the medical field. She became a lab technician.
Right on.
Yeah, I think that she was one of the reasons why I was like so interested in science, and why I'm such like a sci-fi nerd now. It's all Mom's fault. You know, she had me sitting there watching like Star Trek, like, you know, every week. You know, the reruns, and then when Star Trek Next Generation came out, and then like all the other inceptions of Star Trek, that's all her, I can promise you. But and I used to go to the lab with her a lot, but you know, she kind of regretted that she never got a chance to really go further. Like, did she really wanted to? Because, you know, that's what she really desired to be, is to, you know, is to become a doctor. And I think that she could have been a phenomenal one. I tell my mom, I said, you're one of the smartest people that I know, you know, and even though like she gives me a hell of a problem every time, like I ask her a question because of something I don't know. And then she says to me, haven't I taught you that already? Why don't you know that? I said, I don't. That's why I'm asking you. Lady, damn, stop giving me a problem.
Cynthia, my mom was just like that. She actually kind of similar to what Granny was saying. She from high school went right into college, wanted to be a nurse, met my dad and said, oh my God, I want to have a bunch of kids. And so he was Navy. She moved around the country with him, had kids. She was a stay-at-home mom. And then he cheated on her the entire time they were together when he was overseas, and then after he came home. And when about the time I hit 8 years old, the youngest, she said, you know what, I'm just done. I don't need you anymore. I'll figure it out on my own. So she kicked him out of the house, and he went and lived with his little fling. And she applied back to college and was that close to having her nursing degree, and decided she couldn't stand people dying. So she became a science teacher instead. She said, maybe I can influence the next generation.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. So,
and just
so
for
when
context,
I was, and she was always,
oh, I was just going to say, just for context, B, for anybody out there who doesn't know you quite as well as I do, can you tell me how many siblings you have exactly?
I'm the youngest of 7. Lost 1 to cancer in 2008. There's 6 of us left. So
There you go.
and
So,
she was mom and dad. She was mom and dad to everybody. Like, he was, even when he was home, he was either drunk or just didn't do anything. She taught us how to do everything. My brothers and I would go out to the car and we'd figure out stuff together. We need to fix this. So we learned a lot of on hands. We called it, what was it? We make do with what we have. We are Puritans. We make do with what we have. So we would take a piece of metal and change it into a bolt if we needed to, because it just had to be done, you know? So
you were MacGyver.
Yeah, really, it's true. I still do that in my head. I'm like, you know, I need to do this. How do I do it different? You know, how can I do it different?
Yeah.
But no, but she was such a big,
that's a lot.
she was a big science nerd. Yeah, she was a big science nerd. She took us to see Star Wars, the first Star Wars, right after it came out. She took us to the drive-in because it was cheaper, and she couldn't afford to take us to like a
in the
theater of any. I'd never been to a movie theater until I was like 20 or something, or 19, like literally. So she took us all to drive-in. We were on top of the station wagon and watching Star Wars, and we had our control panel, and we were shooting down the enemy, and it was amazing. Like, she was just so happy that we all went and saw Star Wars together. You know, that's how she was. So, but yeah, no, she did the same thing with us, Cynthia. She integrated a lot of science into our life. She was a religious woman, raised Mormon Catholic, still went to church every Sunday, still involved in the church, but she never really talked about the church at home. It was always science stuff. You know, we discussed science this or science that, or anatomy, or dissecting something over the dinner table. That's just how I grew up. So it got all of us really interested in how things work, is what it did. So we're all very hands-on, mechanically inclined people now. So,
gosh, I wish I was like that. I got mechanical problems on my car right now. Child, I wish I could fix that shit myself.
Oh, you want me to just come to Chicago and help you out, or?
Yeah, come on.
I'll bring my brother. He can rebuild your car.
I need that.
Cynthia, I was thinking that with your scarf, you kind of look like our Rosie on the thumbnail. Rosie the Riveter.
Oh yeah, Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wish I can just.
Yes.
I can't rivet. Right, but I can't rip it a goddamn thing. I'm gonna rip it on my head.
Because we had all of these women, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine this happened to a certain degree in Australia as well. During World War II, all the men were out fighting, and so we were doing things like testing planes, which frankly a lot of women died during that, doing those test flights, and you don't hear about it as much as we should. And they were running factories, and working in factories, and they were making munitions and all of these things. And then when the war was over, we were there was so much cultural pressure, at least in the States, to step back and go back into the home. And that was the 1950s. That was very
right. The government put out lots of announcements trying to glorify the position of the housewife, the stay-at-home wife and mother. And they really tried to push the narrative so that women would leave the factories and let the returning soldiers have the factory jobs. And so, yeah, the stay-at-home wife and mother really was a thing of the 50s. Before the women worked in the factories in the 40s, women worked. They just worked in different positions.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole idea of the stay-at-home mother is not the biblical thing that the religious right tries to push on us. It was a government position of the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Came home, instead of the government taking any actual responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Government should take responsibility for a lot of things.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Was it the same? I was going to ask you, Jen, if it was the same way there in Australia.
Yeah, it was. It very much was. The women were put into the position of doing the men's jobs, especially out on the farms and stuff like that, because it was a requirement. But Australia was a bit more forward than even the UK, and even a lot more forward than the US was with women's rights. We had women's voting in the before the 1900s, so there were more women's rights. So when the men came back and they said, "Oh, get the women back into the homes," Australia said no. Women in the workforce to prop up the workforce, so it didn't have the same pushback that you guys had over there. There was still a lot of that idea that came through because we cop so much American television here in Australia that American ideas often end up here anyway.
So you had Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best and all that.
Oh my God.
In some cases.
I grew up on that stuff.
A good example of what you're talking about, although the grandmother I'm talking about actually was born in England, not in Australia, but because I got into computers and electronics when I was in high school, so I was building stuff in high school, and then when I went on to technical college and that, I was still doing stuff like that. And my grandmother would always critique my soldering because she was a soldier. She soldered during the war. She was building boards for things, and she was bloody good at it. And she would pick on me all the time. You're not doing that right. So I ended up very good at soldering.
Queen Elizabeth II was a freaking mechanic during the war.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I know it was, I'm sure, I know they kept her well away from danger and stuff, but she can work on a car engine, like legitimately.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get the Queen over here to fix Cynthia's car.
Yes. I am so okay with that.
Yeah.
And she's still walking around. I don't know what they're giving that woman to keep her alive. They just
did you see her next to Donald Trump?
Royal food.
I've never seen such a withering, what is wrong with you look. It was so beautiful. It was like, okay.
And she looks like she's like in way better health than he is, to be honest with you. I saw them damn McDonald's cheeseburgers that he like be eating at 2:00 in the morning while he tweeting.
Mm-hmm. Y'all,
Why doesn't he go and visit a COVID ward without a mask, like Pence did? I mean, I'm
Oh.
sure.
Oh, the thing is, if he really believed, then he could do that safely. I'm sorry, I can't even do a straight face for it. I can't do it.
The man should believe because he can hold a Bible upside down. You know.
And quoted incorrectly.
What was that? What was that nonsense?
Oh, let's not go there. Oh,
Just
just like
sorry.
don't get me on a rant about that, man.
Right. We're
Don't,
moving for a
don't do
woman's
it, Cynthia.
job. There
Don't
we
do
go.
it.
Yeah, that is
You
the
know
woman's
how I
job.
feel
That's
about
where we're
this.
going. We're gonna go right there.
Hey, you know what? November, we're coming for you. All right, everybody, freaking vote in November, please. In
Yes.
the U.S., please vote.
Yes, I don't
Thank
care
you.
whether you like the other guy or not. Vote. We can fix that later. Some things
Vote.
can't be fixed right now.
I have a different position when it comes to vote that's not very popular.
I know
I
you.
do
Okay.
I do plan on voting, but I'm not voting for the top ticket.
Oh, come
because
on.
I hate, absolutely loathe Biden and Trump. I can't stand either of them. I think that
I get that.
I'm so upset at the DNC for even allowing that damn ticket to go forward in place. I mean, like it's like you're giving me shit for shit. Like, what are you doing?
What about
So
Running Man?
however,
I'm in the primary.
however, no, I voted in the primary, but however, I'm more so focusing on Congress and my local elections and also my local initiatives as well. So I'm more so leaning Democratic when it comes to Congress because at least no matter who gets into office, like, at least we can look at, Congress as like keeping the executive branch in check regardless. But at the same time, I'm really upset right now, you guys. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. Let me.
You don't have to apologize. And honestly,
Yeah, finish that wine.
You're talking about all of the other voting you're doing. So many Americans only vote in the presidential election. And they
That's true.
don't vote locally, and they don't vote in primaries, and they don't vote in congressional and senatorial elections, and that is messed up. And that's something. And so you make an excellent point there, Cynthia.
No,
That is
messed up
in complete agreement. So yeah,
What's more messed up than that is that so many Americans don't vote.
no shit.
That's true.
Well, what's even worse than that is so many Americans can't vote, aren't allowed to vote.
And that, yep.
That too. Yeah. We have a big problem when it comes to the electorate as far as like, participating in, what constituency does because, they're not allowing themselves to be fully versed on the candidates that's being presented to us in the first place, let alone even participating in that process. Voting, even though like voting is not the only thing that one can do as far as like politically is concerned, but it is extremely important,
Mm-hmm.
to definitely be a part of that particular process.
And
When
it is-
people turn 18, they should automatically be registered to vote.
Yeah, I was at school. I was very lucky. They came into our senior classroom and gave us the things, and we got to register to vote. I will say during George W. Bush's second election, I was somehow purged from the voter rolls, but I had checked 8 months earlier to make sure I was registered because I really hated that guy. I didn't know how much worse it could get, but I really did not like him as president. Now I'm like a little nostalgic. But anyway, so I.
When you get to the worst, even the bad ones seem great.
I think like when Trump won, I was like, bring back W.
Anybody.
I hate this motherfucker, but he's better than who we have now. All right, so anyway,
Let's face it, Mark is better than who you have now.
around 8 months before the election, I sent in, all my information filled out correctly because I was an English teacher. I know how to fill out a damn form, if nothing else, and to get, to get myself registered to vote. 8 months later, when it came time to vote in November, I was still technically not registered. So I had to fill in a provisionary ballot, and those were not even counted. My state went red before they even counted.
What state were you in? What state are you in?
Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
And I'm a Democrat in Tennessee. So I'm a Democrat in Memphis. So I live in a blue city in a very red state.
You know what? Oh my goodness, my dad is from Memphis. Hi, cousin.
Cool.
There is a chance. Memphis is weird. There's a chance we know each other.
Right?
Yeah, seriously. It's like it's a city, but it's a small town at the same time. Anyway.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I always enjoyed myself in Memphis every time I went.
Oh my gosh.
Spent a lot of time on Bill Street,
Oh yeah.
drunk. Sure,
Yeah.
continue.
That's the only reason to go there.
Someone who's grown up in a country where voting is compulsory, I can't understand this thing in so many other countries where you don't have to vote.
Thank you. And I think it should be compulsory.
Compulsory voting. I mean, I know there's lots of people guys. You can't make me vote, but people should have to use. Not using your voice, and this is the only time you really get your voice to actually make some form of difference in what happens in your country, because the politicians just do whatever the fuck they want once they're already in. So you have to use the one bit of power you have in voting to make a difference, and the fact that people won't do that or aren't given the ability to do that because it's taken away through because they don't have the privilege in society that other people do, because that's usually the main reason. It comes down to privilege. It just really annoys me. And in Australia, everyone of voting age gets to vote. I mean, you can waste your vote. You can walk in. You have to show up at the polling booth and have your name crossed off, or you get a fine. You could either take a
That's
fine and not vote.
interesting.
Yeah,
Or you
I think it's a great idea. I'm
You know what? I don't have a problem with that at all.
No, because I feel so like my whole thing. The moment I learned about the suffragettes and Susan B. Anthony, and learned about how Black women and white women both fought for that. Of course, the Black women were like totally pushed aside. And
I'm about to say I got mixed emotions about Susan B.
I
Anthony.
know.
Continue.
I do too, Cynthia. And the more I learn about it, the more like fucked up I feel about the.
Sure.
I was just going to mention that we're a little off topic, but since today is the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote, and we are a women's panel. Let's go for it. Shift to politics.
I didn't even know that.
You know that's my brain and butter. I love talking about politics.
Oh yeah, me too. What I want to say about it is that ever since I was a very young person, like before I had the right to vote, before I was of age, rather, I knew that women had gone to jail, so I would have the right to vote. I knew that they had put themselves in harm's way by protesting for the right to vote. I knew that they had been hit by nightsticks and attacked by police. And so for me, it's always been a matter of honor. Like these women put themselves in harm's way and in jeopardy to give me that voice. Yeah.
And that's why when a woman says, I'm not going to vote, I want to smack her. Are you kidding me right now?
I feel the same way when I talk to Black people. And you know, and I can definitely empathize, you know, with any Black person who says that they don't necessarily want to vote, especially when you look at the positionality that Black people actually hold in the United States. And how, you know, the government and government institutions have been, you know, purposely adverse to Black folk, right? But at the same time, you know, one of the things that I even tell myself, even though like I'm a mixed bag, especially when it comes to now versus how much do you want to lean on voting just because the civil rights movement, right? Or just because slavery, or just because Jim Crow, you know, but at the same time, I feel like it's my duty to show up, you know, even if I have to make hard decisions on who I'm voting for different offices. I do my best to try to make sure that I'm educated enough about who these particular people who are running for these offices is going to try to occupy them, to make sure that they are actually holding my best interest. And if they don't, I don't vote for them at all, you know. And I don't necessarily, even though like I've been pretty democratic as far as like, you know, who I vote for. I voted for Republican candidates before. I more so look at their platform and what they're advocating for, and what, you know, even like some of their past policies that they actually, you know, propped up, and what they did not, to see if that's something that I really want to say, yeah, I think that I can jive with this particular person versus the other, right? But at the same time, you know, I know for a fact, I've seen footage, I've watched, you know, Their Eyes Is on the Prize, like how like folk was like, you know, hosed and dogs turned on them, and even like, you know, as of recently, how the civil rights, I'm sorry, not the civil rights, but the Supreme Court gutted the Voters' Rights Act in 2013, and how like states and municipalities immediately jumped on that so that they can gerrymander people out of votes, close down polling places, close down early voting, you know, for people who would even like, if they can't necessarily get off like on Super Tuesday, they would vote like on a Sunday or a weekend or what have you, you know, when they had time to do it. And so like when I saw that happening, I was like, you know, that's one of the things that we fought so hard to have again, because we wanted a voice and a seat at the table, and for us to completely just abdicate that, you know, without actually showing like, you know, what it is that you're, you know, what you're fighting for, you know, I feel it's egregious.
Do you think, Cynthia, that some of it is because some people in the Black community feel like they can't, that no matter what they do, nothing's going to change, that even with the vote, they still have no voice?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, you know, so, and this is the issue that we have in the United States. Jen, I can't speak for Australia because I'm not there, but I heard it's lovely, depending on where you are. But
say what you're going to say, and then I'll let you know how things are in reliance in equal to that.
Excellent.
Did we lose Cynthia?
Oh, no, I think
she's buffering. She'll be back in a moment.
Really quickly, just to piggyback on what Cynthia is talking about. For example, I don't know if this happened everywhere, but in Tennessee, we had a situation several years ago before Obama was elected president. We had a situation where people with the same last name as convicted felons, because if you're a convicted felon in Tennessee, you can't vote. You lose your right to vote for ever, I think. I might be, they may have changed that, but for a while it was forever. So if you had the same last name, you got purged from the voting rolls. So what if your last name was Smith, you know, or Taylor or something? These are very, right? It's very frustrating. And of course, you know, this meant that like, if you had one member of your family that you shared a surname with who happened to be a convicted felon, none of y'all could vote. And that hit Black communities really hard because more incarceration for stupid reasons.
Yeah.
Hey, Cynthia.
And you know that. Really, by the way, let me say something about that real quick. It really pisses me off when they say, "Okay, this person's a convicted felon. Now you've done your time. You're done. You still can't vote."
Yeah,
that's fucked up. They've done their time, and reparations have been made. They should be allowed to vote again. And that's what they do, is they get somebody on something small, like, oh, you got a little nugget of weed in a bag, and wherever you are, they make it into a felony, and then that guy can't ever vote again because, what, he smokes pot sometimes? That doesn't make him
like everybody.
You know,
and
idiot.
And we know that is
pisses
more
me off.
For other people.
Did they do their time or did they not do their time?
Yeah.
Okay, Cynthia.
My car been stopped by a cop, didn't get searched.
Okay, Cynthia wasn't finished with a thought before she accidentally dropped. So we'll go ahead.
That was my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi doing the most by doing the absolute least. That's what my Wi-Fi does. Damn you, AT&T. So to your question about do I feel that a lot of Black people have a tendency to advocate the vote because even if they do vote that they don't necessarily feel like anything will change, and I say yeah, absolutely they feel that way, and because like if you have like, and this is the problem, slavery's only been abolished for 150 years, but slavery lasted for almost 250 years. So people that was enslaved, that slavery was actually not a thing, less time than slavery was a thing. And then slavery, and then slavery was, even though it was abolished, you turned around and had state-sanctioned slavery in a different era with Jim Crow that lasted another 100 years. So to be honest, like Black people never seen like anything close to citizenship for only 55 years in the entire time that the United States was a thing. And so, and then when you, and then like, I know like, I lived in that bubble in the 80s for a short time until like, I was like dumped on to like, this is not the case, that I thought that racism was over because Dr. Martin Luther King marched. And I was so wrong.
I thought it was over when Obama got elected.
Yeah, I thought, like, listen, my family, I remember when Obama got elected in 2008 in November, and my dad and my sister and my sisters and my nieces and all of us was in the den at my dad's house, and we was all just like watching TV, and the electoral college came in finally for California, and they declared Obama was president, and we cried like babies, like, oh my God, I never thought I would see this moment. And we thought we arrived, and we were so wrong.
Well, and his inauguration, I was born on January 20th, so every freaking inauguration is on my birthday. So sometimes it's really rough. That was great. Those were 2 really good years. But we did the same thing.
Julie?
We had a bunch of white friends in Midtown crying, watching him get inaugurated.
And I mean,
same thing happened with everybody I knew. We all called each other. We were excited. We were thinking, this is it. Things are going to change now. We finally got a Black guy in the freaking Oval Office.
And we was like, no.
We are.
No, we are not. No, this is no change.
We're not going to do shit.
Jen has been waiting patiently for a long time to make some comments. Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Jen.
That's all right. We're all very eager to talk. And I realize from the lag that I will tend to talk over people, so I'm trying to make sure I don't do it. But yeah, to what you were saying earlier, Cynthia, I can bring 2 things in on here. You were talking about the 1920s was when women finally got the vote in the US. In my state, in Australia, women have had the vote since 1889. So that's 31 years earlier than you guys did. Australia was federated in 1901. So the Federation of Australia became independent from the UK in 1901. So not all that long ago. But women had the vote right from the beginning. And that was all women, with an exception. If you were an Aboriginal woman, you did not get the vote. In fact, if you were an Aboriginal at all, you did not get the vote. Aboriginal people in Australia did not get the right to vote until the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
If you want to talk about... No, you talk about racism in the US. Whilst we didn't have slavery here, we had slavery in all but name for a very long time. Aboriginal people were used as workers who basically weren't paid in anything but squalor to live in and a bit of food. Government sanctioned control of these people by using food vouchers or food things. There's a novel written by it's a play actually written by an Aboriginal author, and I cannot remember, Jack Davis, that's his name. And the novel's called No Sugar. And basically, by food donations given to small Aboriginal communities, the government was able to control what those communities did.
That reminds me of the reservations here, but more
reservations,
maybe.
But done here. But they were basically forced to live in squalor. We had the stolen generation where children were taken away from their parents to make them more white.
We had that.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, with Slave Americans.
This continued up until the 60s. I know people who were part of the stolen generation.
Yeah, yeah. Their children are like just now coming into adulthood here. So yeah.
Jen, can I ask you a question concerning the Aborigines? I thought I read fairly recently, maybe in only a few years, that Australia paid some type of recompense or reparations to Aboriginal people, a restitution to them.
All right. We have there was a High Court decision in Australia that the concept of terra nullius, which means big empty land, that the British used when they came to Australia was in error. The land was not empty and they did not have the right to take it.
Mm.
So what that has meant for Aboriginal people in Australia is they have had the right to claim back tribal lands. Now, there have been provisions that have been put into that because they're like, if the tribes don't have a long-standing connection to that place anymore, because and often that's because they've been pushed out of it because of the white folk who moved into it, they can't claim it, because if they're not still tied to that land, they can't. But if they were in an area where they still have ties to that land or that sacred site or whatever else, those sites, those locations have been handed back to those Aboriginal people.
Mm.
And that's the reparations. If those lands and sites were not available to be handed back because, say, the government decided to give mining rights to them or something like that, the reparations have had to be paid to those Aboriginal peoples to allow for the fact that these things were taken from them. So yes, there has been reparations. Not only that, in 2008, I think it was, our government actually officially said sorry to the Aboriginal nation for what, and for the stolen generation, for taking their lands and their sites, and for the racism that was done towards them. This was not bipartisan. Our Labor government, which is our left wing, did this, and it was not agreed to by the right wing Liberal government, which is a weird thing we have over here, where our Liberal government is our right wing. It was not agreed to. They didn't like the idea that they thought giving a wholesale apology was open slather for more legal cases. But it's not about that. It's about making things right, because you can't erase what was done, but you can at least build for a better future. And whilst there are some Aboriginal people who looked on that and said, it's false and nobody really means it and it's just bullshit and you white folks are fuckers, and I can see their point of view completely with that. There are also a lot of people who were just so happy that an apology was given. It was long overdue and it was really, really needed. Aboriginal a lot of Aussies will dump on Aboriginal people because it's the same sort of thing that you have in the US, where you have those areas where you've got a higher disproportionate population of black people compared to white people, and people think that they're the dangerous areas and that's where all the violence and all the gangs and so they've got this, especially middle class and upper middle class white folk that tend to think that these people are all dangerous, so everyone gets tarred with feather. Yet in Australia, I will guarantee you that white trash is way worse than any of the Aboriginal people that are out there. The white trash.
I agree with that.
Nuts.
That's different. I'm not saying it's the same, but I would agree. Yeah, they scare me. I was out in the country recently, just near Memphis, like going out to see a friend who happens to live, out a ways. And Junk Shop and I passed, usually, okay, I hate the fucking Confederate flag. It makes me nervous when I see it. But usually, when you see it being flown here, it's under a Union flag, right? So you've got the American flag, and then you've got the hateful loser flag, right? Okay. All right. Well, at least they're admitting they lost on that level. We were driving. I don't know. It bothers me.
Sure.
Okay, so we go. So we're driving out, and we come across a farm, and they're only flying a Confederate flag, which is the first time. And I've been in the South my whole life, and that was the first time I ever saw that. And I looked at Junk Shop, and I was like, the sun is not setting on us here. Just so you know, like we're getting in, we're getting out, and we're getting our ass back to town because this makes me uncomfortable. And Junk Shop was like, "Yup." Like,
I keep saying I want to buy a whole bunch of little plastic Benedict Arnolds. And anytime I see someone that's got a Confederate flag, saying, "Oh, I see you like traitors. Here, I have a Benedict Arnold."
Enjoy.
Thank you.
It makes
Thank you. I mean, like,
Awesome.
anytime, like, and I know that, like, I've talked about Confederate flags, like the rebel flag, and statues, and all this other stuff, and even like when they started to come up, was like around like the 19 teens in the 1920s, and then you had even more that actually showed up like in retaliation to the civil rights movement. And any person who says to me, well, this is our heritage, I was like, and I'm about to drop the F-bomb right now, everybody. I just want
you're welcome to drop that as long as you don't drop the R word.
Right, I'm just letting you know. I'll be like, motherfucker. The South fucking lost.
Yeah.
They seceded from the Union. This is a treasonous symbol. How can you call yourself American and patriotic and still hold to this flag?
Thank you.
This has nothing to do with heritage. This is you pulling and having like credence to something very problematic against the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Alabama.
Can I just say to any white people in Memphis, next time you see me and you decide that I agree with you because we're both pale, can you just fuck off? Because I don't agree with you. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear about it. Does anybody else get this? Do you get this thing where like somebody who looks like you comes up and says something really freaking racist and you're like, excuse me? And they just assume that because you're gonna agree.
You know what I do, Julie? I tell them to fuck off. And if you ever say that shit around me again, I will report you. I will never speak to you. I will tell everybody you're a bigot. That's what I do. I don't give a shit. None of them scare me. I'll be damned if I'm going to listen to that crap.
And this is why I roll with B.
Yeah, right?
My dad was racist. Man, I listened to that shit growing up. And by the time I got to be 12 years old and he called my white friends and my two black friends the N-word, I was done with him. 12 years old, I told him to fuck off. So you think at 40-something I'm not going to tell somebody to fuck off? I sure as hell will. If you're still talking that kind of smack in this day and age, and then, I was a truck driver and I'd listen to guys on the CB and there'd be like a black guy preaching, I didn't care. I just turned it down. I didn't want to hear it. He could say whatever he wants, And so some white guy would come on and make some racist comments. And I'd get on there and say, you need to shut the hell up and read a book, you asshole. Do you even know where you came from? Have you ever read history at all? Like where we all started, you dumbass. So pick up a book, and they're like calling me an N lover and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, yes, I am. That's right, buddy. I don't give a shit. So these two guys are arguing. This is a true story. These two guys are arguing on the radio. So I pass them both. I see them talking, right? So I pull over in the truck stop. It was the first truck stop in I don't know how many miles. They pull in behind me. We all walk up to the door. The white guy holds the door for the black guy. After you, sir. And I'm like, do you even know that you were just like, I know that you were just doing that, but they hide behind shit. God. So I just looked at him and he went to hold the door for me. And I was like, nah, man, I got it. You go ahead. I don't need you to hold my door. Yeah. Because I knew exactly who he was.
We can thank Lee Atwater for that one. So just let you know.
I live in Alabama, and when I take Robin to school or drive down to where Robin goes to school in Auburn, we pass the Confederate Museum every time. has a
Oh,
big Confederate flag in front of it. Yeah, and I've talked to people who say, but this is our heritage. It shows Southern pride. And I said, well, why not get the new flag?
Why do you want to be proud
I-
of owning people?
I suggested a
Look.
flag with a peach pie on it. I said, it's
Gotta be that.
hospitality. Peaches come from the South. Why not a peach pie?
I can handle a flag with
agree
friends.
that you would have to
I'm so okay with that if the peach pie is vegan. So continue.
I was just going to say, I do agree that we have to remember our history, all the good and all the bad, because if you don't remember the bad, you will fucking repeat it. That is
Sure.
the way it works. So you have to remember the bad, but you have to remember it the way it happened, all the horrible knots of it all, and even on the side that we'd all prefer, the side that ended up victorious in the US or in Australia, where things have changed and everything. There is some stuff that is still not good.
Oh yeah.
And
You're right.
remember,
Yeah,
that's
those-
part of
we are
this.
not fixed.
Remember.
No, not in the least.
No.
I mean, you last thing you guys want to do in America is forget the last 3 years of Trump. Yeah, I know you all want to, but you can't forget it. You have to remember it. You have to remember that this fucking happened after having 6 years of a black president. You suddenly get a racist fucking
8.
mob of filled fuckers.
8 years. Yeah.
Sorry, just
8 years, yes. 4 years, isn't it?
it was nice.
4 years, yeah. Sorry.
8
Sorry.
years. Yeah, we have 4.
No, it's okay.
So-
No, you're right. Though. You're making a good point, Jen. You are. It's the old adage,
Forget.
forget the past or repeat it.
Right.
You're
And,
absolutely right.
And that's
right.
why this is what I say should happen. Since we're on the whole Confederacy thing, I do not think that the statue should be destroyed. I think they should be put in an area and explain the truth about every single one of those assholes. So the kids that are growing up now can look at it and go, oh shit, I don't want to be like that.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
if you
I think that they
erase
should be
history,
put
you're
in-
doomed to repeat it.
A
It
museum
needs
of
to be a
shame.
lesson, put in its own area, labeled as such.
I think that they should be put in museums. I really do, and actually tell the real story. Like I don't necessarily think that they should be demolished. I think that they should be moved to museum areas where you actually tell the entire history, because like this is the issue that we're having in the United States. You got the whitewashing of history, and you even got blackwashing of history.
Mhm.
And the blackwashing of history is like, trying to come to this whole Wakandanization of what we want to think and feel, what Black is. Matter of fact, I wrote in my blog, ADOS Health and Wellness, my very first blog post was about identity and how, Black folk in America specifically have been really struggling with, saying like, who are we really? Because we've gone through so many different names. We was Negro, we was colored, we was
my
boy,
God, keep
gal.
going.
I mean, just like, and now we African American and
Right.
all this other, and it's like, but the thing about it is that, and then even when you even look at Black in America, like that's so flat, because you got Black Americans that descend from chattel slavery, and you even got Black folk that have immigrated from other countries like Jamaica and Trinidad and Belize and Dominican Republic, et cetera, et cetera. So, and even depending on like what land you come from, is going to come from a whole different portion of experiences that's going to be so different from a person who's been here for multiple generations, and so like when even like we're looking at like, okay, well, we're going to look at Africa as our point of identity, right? And we're going to be Pan-African, and that's going to be this whole Wakanda forever looking, that everything is so easy breezy in this entire continent. And then,
Reference.
right, and I mean, but that's in itself is silly. Even when you are looking at, Africa being this continent of 54 countries, 3,000 different tribes with over 2,000 different languages and dialects.
Mhm.
They not Pan. You know what I'm saying? You even got like instances like where folk in South Africa is upset with the people in Nigeria because they're immigrating to their area and they're saying you're taking our jobs and we got over 20% unemployment here, and then you got other folk is fighting and all this type of craziness, and I'm just like, no. There, I mean, and the thing about it is that you got to be able to tell the truth about how all history has culminated into this particular point. And guess what? It's not pretty. It's not fancy. It's not something that you can just put in a box and present it with a bow on top and say, here you go. It's history is ugly and it's brutal and it comes, but it's important. And it's important to know the real factual history, just like you all just said, like so that you learn it and you don't repeat it and you can actually learn from it so that you can create better societies.
And I want to add to that. I think between every single statue, they should put a life-size picture of someone hanging from a tree, or someone that was just beaten, or someone that was killed, or someone that was like. Because the problem is if you don't throw a shock factor in there, people aren't going to pay attention. You have to get their attention. Anybody that's ever been to the Holocaust Museum will know exactly what I mean.
Yeah,
like that's what needs to be done.
Yeah,
because that shit got my attention.
Real fucking fast, right? I saw.
It made me start looking into a lot of stuff, and that's when I started advocating for all of this shit to stop. Because I was like, oh my god, what are people doing to each other? I mean, I cried. I just cried. It made me sick.
I saw an exhibit in New York in 1992. I went with my high school theater group to New York, and we went to a museum, and there was an exhibit of drawings and paintings done by Japanese children who were from Nagasaki and Hiroshima who were dying of radiation sickness. And
perfect example.
One of them, and one of them I will never forget. It was, I was a little kid, so it was fairly simplistic. It looked like, but it was all of these pale bodies in like a river of fire. And it's seared into my brain. And the fact that this poor dying, and I think it said on the thing, like it was a young girl, her name, or it was a feminine name. And I think it said 6 years old. That's when I started crying. I was like, no, this should not be the art of any 6-year-old child anywhere. That's
exactly why slavery has pissed me off so much, because so many people have been so repressed and beaten and watched their parents killed and thrown around wherever they wanted and sold off. And oh my god, how can you do that to another human being? I have like these Spanish methods that come into work, and they attack me, and I don't hurt them because I still, even though I can't stand them, I still feel sympathy for them. I still know that something went wrong in their life. I still know that it's probably a parent, or they were abused, or something that led them into this. So I can only blame them so much. I can blame them for not trying to find their way out of it, but I can only blame them so much. So the day, a couple weeks ago, that guy punched me in the neck, I could have pile drived it. I mean, I would have tore him up. I was having a bad day anyways, but I didn't hit him. I didn't hit him because I felt sorry for him. I felt sympathy for him still. And that's what's wrong. Nobody knows how to feel sympathy for anybody. But it's their own plight, and what they're going through matters, and what everybody else is going through is null. And it's ridiculous. And I feel like our society is making this worse on a daily basis. They're numbing everybody. Don't worry about the other guy, worry about you. And that's exactly what's going on. It's just, that's why I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. Sorry.
Humanity is still tribal, and we're still evolving,
absolutely.
And I look forward to the day where we would actually garner to more humanistic values. But unfortunately, we still have this whole notion of like, I need to have this money, I need to have this power, I need to be here, etc., etc. And I've been here for generations, and how dare you try to push me away from the position that I have held for so long. You know, and I mean, like, and that's something that it has to change, because we can't function as a world, or even as a world period, with these social constructs that we have made in order to say, okay, you are here and you are here, and we're going to treat you accordingly. I mean, and I understand that we function like that even in the world, in some semblance of caste systems. But, you know, as we evolve and we learn more and things of that nature, those things are just not hold up. And if I can respond to Inquisitive Quandary, hey, IQ, you know, also one of the mods on YFNA News. It's great to see you. You know, depending on what Black person you talk to, we don't necessarily care if you call us Black. I don't necessarily have a problem with Black. I definitely, but I would definitely just say just be very cautious of just flattening Black, because Black is Black folk is not monoliths, and depending on, especially like where we hail from, as far as like, you know, if I am from America or if somebody else is from another country, like, you know, a lot of our sensibilities are going to be very different. I like to tell this real quick story. So I remember when I graduated from college, I went to a party with a friend of mine, and it was a lot of different people that was there. A lot of them were Black, but a lot of them were immigrants from different countries, and they were professionals. And there was this one guy that was from Uganda, and I thought that he was beautiful. Oh my gosh, I was like, I felt like that. I was so enamored of love at first sight, right? And well, maybe more like lust at first sight, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And
I had a lot of students, and I just had to look at their shoes.
So I remember, like, I was so impressed with how intelligent he was and well-spoken he was, and you know, and I remember going home because, like, I was only going to be like home in Chicago for like a week, and then I was going to go back to the town that I was in to start my new job. And I remember telling my dad about him, and I was just like, Dad, I met this guy, and this is his name, and he's from Uganda, and woo woo woo, and he's just the bee's knees and all this other stuff, right? And then my dad was like, hold on. I was like, what? And he's like, hold on. I was like, what? And he's like, you don't want that. I said, what do you mean I don't want that? This guy is gorgeous. What are you talking about? And he's like, you don't want that. And I was just like, I don't understand that. And he said, you both are from two different cultures. Just because you share melanin does not mean you share a same experience. And if you decided to actually get into like relationship, culture is going to be an issue. I was like, oh my goodness, how sway? And he's like, I'm just telling you, you don't want that. Not now, because like you're very American in the way that you think. Just like we were talking about, like, you know, like gender roles and sex roles as far as like relationships are concerned, you know, depending on even like, you know, country and tribes, especially like me in African countries, it's very patriarchal. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's like certain, there's certain positionalities that, you know, women should hold. And if they don't think that way, it's going to be a problem. And I know me. I don't think that way at all. I'm just like, look, I work, I get educated, like I do what I got to do, right? I mean, that's it.
Jeans. Sorry, I was responding to the thing that popped up.
Oh no, you're cool.
I've got the short leg thing, like you can tell. Go ahead.
I don't have short legs, unfortunately. But yeah, but you know, like so like even if that's a particular case, like, you know, like going back to what IQ said. You know, again, I don't necessarily think that there's an issue calling Black folk Black, you know, but I definitely know, and this is even from being a child of an immigrant, that, you know, depending on what context that you're speaking of, especially if they're an immigrant in the United States, they will correct you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they would say like, yeah, I'm not Black American, I'm Jamaican. Or I'm Haitian, or I'm this, or I'm that, you know, because, yeah, or I'm Dominican, I'm Cuban, you know what I'm saying? Like, they are very, very very aware and will tell you, this is what I am, because like what that is would come with a whole bunch of different portions of what that culture is and what they even hold dear and what they value.
Mm-hmm. And you make an excellent point. I like I said, I worked with a lot of foreign exchange students, and the one guy, and again, had to look at his shoes. He was pretty, don't get me wrong, but he was from Congo. What is it called?
Republic.
The Republic of Congo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so and he his first language was French. Plus he spoke like 3 others because African, right?
Sure.
This has been my limited experience with anyone from Africa or anyone who was a missionary's kid in Africa. They speak at least 4 languages.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them was French. English was one he was still learning. So I was teaching a for lack of a better term, remedial English class. It wasn't about intelligence. It was for people who were like English as a second or third or fourth language folks. So we get in there, and he's killing it on our basketball team. He's doing great in his other classes. But when you want to talk about cultural differences, he did not like a woman telling him what to do. And the disdain in his voice whenever I asked him to participate in class was so evident, and I mostly ignored it, or I did ignore it. But then, like, we got to a point where we were talking about, because you have to give them controversial. You have to give them stuff that they can argue about to write about, right? So this was before gay marriage was legal. So I was like, okay, right, let's talk about gay marriage. What do you think? Blah blah blah. Should it be legal? Should it be not? Why not? And I mean, I think y'all can tell from the flag behind me how I feel about it. But he says, "Oh, in my country, we just kill gay people."
Really?
And I was like, "Oh, I'm glad I wasn't born there." And that is what came out of my mouth. I was a college professor, and that's what came out of my. Glad I wasn't born there, and just moved on.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's real, yo. I mean, like, anti-buggery in those particular countries, it's pervasive in the Caribbean as well. Oh my goodness, like in Jamaica, child, LGBTQ, don't even think about it. It's a problem.
That's something I was going to mention before. The fact that bigotry always has the same voice no matter what they're being bigoted about. If you're racist or you're homophobic, transphobic, or whatever else, the language that's used by bigots is exactly the same. It's talking of segregation. We don't want you in our spaces. Othering type language, and the describing you as being less than human. It's the same bullshit that's used over and over and over again, and regurgitated to ultimately try to make usually white middle class folks feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'm sorry to anyone.
Yes, absolutely.
Back to something you said earlier, Julie. As a literist, you probably know this book, Thousand Paper Cranes.
Oh, yes, I do. God. Okay, you're just going to break my heart. Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I honestly think that book should be required on all high school lists.
I do too.
I
think The Diary of Anne Frank, The Bluest Eye. There's a bunch that need to be required.
Oh my goodness, Toni Morrison is so problematic.
I know. Really?
It's so problematic. I mean, okay, so
I know.
I read The Bluest Eye. I read Solomon's Song, and I've read Beloved. And this is my issue. And this is my issue. And this is probably one of the reasons why I hate talking in philosophical terms. It's so
we're just talking literature.
Yeah, in literature, like she loves symbolism.
Oh God, so much. Yeah.
That is her writing style. And And by the time that you like weave through all of that to get to like what this really means, like, if you think about Beloved, like what we had to really understand and study what the hell stolen milk meant. You know, like we had to have whole powwows and conversations about this when I was in high school. Like, what does this mean? What are you talking about, Tony? Would you please explain yourself? You know, so
You're right.
and that's why, you know,
that it's like
you
smells like trees and then she doesn't. Can you? What do you? You know,
What are you talking about? Right. You know, so, and even like, you know, I don't necessarily mind like, you know, imagery, like in literature, like, you know, but it's a line, authors. It's a line, authors. I need you. And, you know, even like, you know, like anytime that somebody even tries to like engage in like a philosophical like conversation with me, I had one person that even messaged me and said, "What do you think about objective truth?" I said, "You are not doing this to me. You are so not doing this to me today." Nope.
Even me. Okay.
Is there such a thing as an objective truth, though? As human beings, I think it's impossible not to have everything being subjective. Even down to the way we view science is still subjective. Even
Yeah.
Even though hydrogen is hydrogen, regardless of people observing it, it's only called hydrogen because we subjectively named it that way.
Right.
That's correct.
But I will say, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just like everything is like, you know, even like, you know, some of the things that we agree on, you know, had to come with some type of it had to be subjected to something in order for us to even get to, you know, the that particular end, like gravity, you know, that had to be subjected to something.
I truly believe that's why we evolved imagination, was because we had to be able to consider random possibilities happening to us and how to survive those. It's just a theory. I'm not an evolutionary psychologist by any means.
Oh yeah, gosh, no, me not either.
No.
You know, that's why I don't have those conversations. I said, you're not gonna do that to me. Nope.
No, all I will say is that you're
because we ate meat.
opinions. You're entitled to your own beliefs. You are not entitled to your own facts.
Yes.
That's where I draw the line. And the great thing about
You don't like alternative facts?
I do not. I don't like people with it. I don't like it. Bugs the shit out of me. I love you, Kelly. You're awesome.
So before we, go ahead, Julie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was pretty much finished. I was just like, yeah, you're entitled to your own opinions and all that, and all of your own philosophy. You're not entitled to the fact that, oh, hey, the Earth is an oblate spheroid, and also, hey, look, gravity, boom, done.
Right.
Yeah, I don't get in. I don't even talk to flat earthers. I don't even give them time of day. Nope.
I can do it.
You're not gonna do that to me.
So we were talking about the topic of calling like black people black or whatever. So this is what I do. And I've lived in 9 different states. I wait till I find someone I can start having a friendship with. And then I ask them, here, where I am currently at, what do people prefer to be called? I ask Hispanics the same thing. Do you prefer to be called Hispanic, Latino, Mexican? Where are you from? And so there's a really awesome gay man that walks into my store almost every single night. When I was on nights, I got to be pretty good buddies with him. He's the 2 tall, good-looking guys. Didn't even know they were friends for a long time. That's a different funny story. But so I just asked him one time. Somebody was talking about it, and I said, "Hold on." And I told my coworker to hold on. I walked up there and go, "Hey, Darren." He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "What do you guys prefer right now? Is it like black or American or African American? Or, I mean, I'm just asking because I moved to a new area." He said, "Oh, black's cool." And I said, "All right, thanks." And I walked over and goes, he said, "Black's cool." And they just looked at me. I'm like, well, when in doubt, ask.
There you
ask them.
I feel the same way about pronouns.
They'll appreciate the fact that you give a fuck enough to ask.
Exactly. I feel the same way. I feel the same way even when it comes to pronouns. Like, you know, I would ask a person like, what pronouns do you prefer? And you know, and I would just let that person tell me like, oh, I prefer she, her, and hers. I prefer him and her, him and his. I prefer they and them. Some get real exotic and say, I prefer Z. One person said that they made up their own pronouns and said they want to be called G, Jim, and theirs. I was like, okay.
I just see that's how I am. I just want B. I don't care if you call me anything else. People call me sir at work. They call me ma'am at work. And you know what I do? People go, oh, they called you sir. And I'm like, but they're still showing me respect. Who gives a fuck? I have short hair. I don't care. I don't care. You can call me ma'am or sir or whatever. Just don't call me asshole and late for dinner. I don't give a shit otherwise, you know. And if it's bitch and I don't know you, make it Miss Bitch, please. So I'm good with that. People just worry about it too much, man. If they showed you the respect to say sir or ma'am, just take it and move on with it. They're usually some old person that can't tell the difference and they're half blind anyways. So just roll with it, thank them, tell them to have a nice day.
If it's somebody that matters to, and they bring it up, as long as you're nice about bringing it up, people should respect that as well.
Yes,
this was one of the things that really started drawing me away from Christianity too, is I heard a lot of people in my church saying, why should I be politically correct? You know, I'll use whatever word I want to refer to somebody by. And, you know, and this is the pastor. And in the next breath, he's saying, now make sure you're getting out and telling unbelievers about Jesus Christ. And I thought, how can you go and tell unbelievers about Jesus Christ if you're doing it with offensive terms?
Thank you.
If you really are serious about wanting to, you know, tell people that your God loves them, you should be the first people in line asking, what do you want to be called?
Mm-hmm. It's like, if you want me to respect your invisible friend that you're about to tell me about, I at least need to know that you respect me. Because I'm you can prove it.
Whatever your goat herder's guide to the galaxy happens to be, I need you to just, you know, acknowledge that I am a person, please, before you start, you know, Bible beating me on that particular guide to the galaxy. Appreciate it.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, my God loves you, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely.
Well, we've been going for an hour and a half now, believe it or not. Yeah, it seems like, I know, it seems like it's been 10 minutes, but it hasn't. It's been 90.
We could go for another hour and a half.
We really
do this again.
We will do it another time.
But you don't want to touch up my roots because this is getting a bit crazy up here.
Well, you know, Julie, I didn't even bother. I'm looking at the dark and lovely across my room right now, and this is the reason why my head is wrapped.
Well,
I ain't got to.
If I knew how to do that, I might have. The problem, there are skills I don't have. It's that.
Oh, you guys just need to shut up. You're all beautiful women. Just quit it.
Oh,
fine.
Yes.
Exactly how you are. Your minds and hearts speak volumes over any damn hair. It doesn't matter. It doesn't.
I think it's about time we had another feminism stream, Julie.
Yes. Let's do it. Let's invite all of these ladies.
We'll invite you all, and we'll see. We'll drag somebody else in, and we'll have it. Yeah, you're a feminist, B.
Yeah.
I'm
not feminist. Feminist. Yes.
Feminist.
Okay.
I don't personally identify myself as a feminist.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are certain, you know, feminist ideals that I do garner to.
That's fair. And I will say I do, but I have identified as a feminist since the early 90s when I was in high school. And back then, when, you know, way too long ago, hi, Ricardo, it meant equality of all genders for all genders. That's what it meant. And so that's
I always qualify it that I'm an egalitarian feminist. That's how I always qualify it. Some of the concepts that especially Germaine Greer and her ilk pushed out, where it stopped being about feminism, it started being it was women empowerment to the point of downtrodden other people.
Yeah,
that's a problem. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why I could never really like completely embrace feminism in itself, is because I don't necessarily feel like, you know, this particular portion, you know, should be uplifted at the detriment of somebody else. You know, it's just more like, you know, I'm just more like, let's just respect one another and see each other's humanity and for what it is. There you go. Oh, and Ricardo, on my particular channel, no, I don't have a whole lot of videos. Most of my videos is the content that's on YFNA News. That's where, like, a lot of my videos are. Eventually, I would like to build out my own personal channel, like with music, because I do sing as well. And Ricardo, we will discuss that later. But like at this particular point in my life, my attentions is more based on politics and advocacy, and that's why I haven't really been as like focused in music. However, I will get back to it.
I can't imagine why you feel the need to speak out right now. I mean, everything's so cool and harmonious.
I know, right? And everything is just,
remember
pieces of her.
just world at all. That if you're a white upper class cis het person, you are perfectly right in this world. If you're anything else, you're.
Oh, gosh. All right. I know Grammy is anxious for us to wrap up. Cynthia, since Ricardo did drop the bomb in a chat I was in the other day that you sing, and oh my gosh, why don't you? And he was like going on about how beautiful you sing. I'm not putting you on spot, nothing tonight. I at some point, oh yeah, I want to hear it for sure.
Okay. Okay.
I love music, and
I didn't even know that. How did I not know that?
Made of like whiskey and cigarette. So it's
every time that you saw me on the stream, I was always the go-to chick to talk about race. So yeah.
Well, we always got so deep. We didn't have time for singing, sunshine. We were getting into some shit.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what we was getting into. We never really got into it. And is the Robert X that's in the chat? Is that our Robert?
That's our
No.
He's lovely. Actually,
that's our Jill Robert, not our Robert Reed. No,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Robert, you meant B's brother. No. Yeah, Robert X lives in Germany.
No. Robert. Yeah, no, we're talking about Robert Reed.
Sorry,
Robert.
Okay. Yeah, I was checking. But it's nice meeting you, Robert X. Hi.
I have to ask you something, because before we finish, Granny, I have to ask Cynthia something, because there's a push from that white middle class cishet people where especially now that cis has become the term to denote people who aren't trans, right? So I mean, it has been for a long time, but it's become more mainstream now, where there's the pushback from them that don't call me cis, it's a slur, which is fucking hilarious. But I see this as a mirror of where they went, don't call me heterosexual, I'm just normal, or don't call me white, I'm just normal, because those things have been said in the past as well, and I'm right, aren't I, Cynthia? It was definitely said that don't call me white.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and the thing about it, even when I even think about the construct of race itself, white really means normal. It really does. I mean, because like what ended up happening, even when you look at like, the systemic racism, and even if you look at white supremacy itself, it's like, depending on where you are in this particular system, you're going to have some particular access to normalcy. And so oftentimes, like, if you belong to the white group, you can live here. You can have this much money. You can have this much protection. You can live normally. You know what I'm saying? Right. So like, if a person says, don't call me white, call me normal, I can see why they would say that, because that's kind of what it is, And it's
I'm sorry.
No, and that's why it's kind of like, I in a perfect world, I just want to kill race.
Oh, that'd be good.
That's what I want to do.
In a way, we just haven't killed it socially, which is going to take forever, and we'll probably not live to see it, which makes me sad. But
yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, the Federation.
Yes, honestly, me too.
Yeah.
I want human beings to go, we're all human beings, and oh wow, you're beautiful, and you're and it not be about, because race is a social construct. And I remember the first time I said that to a class of students, and there was a collective what? They had literally never heard it before. And I'm like, well, we're all descended the like Homo sapiens sapiens, our species started in Africa. We're all descended from
You-
that.
You go back far enough, and we are all
Yeah,
darker melanin. We-
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Richard Dawkins even said it. He's like, he said, if you want to even really, say it, like we're really all Africans. I mean, if I'm talking genetically,
Yeah,
I
genetically we are.
like even if you do your 23andMe, somebody got like some percentage of sub-Saharan African in there.
Oh yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
much everybody. You know what I'm saying?
We didn't all just pop out of the earth here and we're all just a bunch of Americans. That's not how it happened, folks. Hate to tell you.
And I
Nope.
I absolutely get what you mean, Cynthia, about white being normal in terms of being like a standard, like that's the standard. But what upsets me about that is it feels like if somebody tells me, "Oh, you're white, you're normal," then I'm like, "Well, you're othering everyone else."
Yeah,
You're
which is like
Asian
that.
person,
Yeah, and that and
yeah, everyone. And I
and
don't.
that's
Which is-
that's the
what-
pervasive portion about what it about how race is constructed, that it causes one to actually start othering other people because of this semblance of what normalcy is in the cog of race itself, and that's why race needs to be killed.
Part of the problem is we as humans like to put things in boxes.
Oh yeah.
We like
So-
to
So
yeah.
it's the way our brain works. We categorize everything we see. It's part of our survival instinct. We evolved, and it's very hard to overcome the things that we evolved.
it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Tribalism served us very
It's
well.
why we
Yeah.
go, oh, these
For a
these
while.
things are different. One of these things is not like the other, and we
Oh, yeah.
do it all the time. We do it automatically, and there's not one of us who can. There's none of us in here can ever say that we have never thought something that could be construed as racist or sexist or phobic in some respect, or
Absolutely.
bigoted in some way, because we all
It's
fucking.
fun.
If you say you're a lying piece of shit.
Yeah, I'll give you one right now. Kiss my white Irish ass. Okay, there we go. There it is.
Yeah, no, I've done.
And
I've
by the
definitely.
way,
I made Cynthia laugh. That
You
was my
know
goal. Woo. All right.
you know how on the job applications and stuff online they'll ask you to answer what race you are, blah blah blah. I always do decline. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
No.
the color of my skin. You should judge me and everybody else off of what they know, what skills they have, the experience they have, blah blah blah, what they can learn. Fuck
I
you
used
guys.
to-
I'm not
I used
telling
to
you. So kiss my
I
ass.
used to pencil in HB, and my teacher asked me what I meant, and I said human being. But I was like,
Yes.
and my brother had encouraged me to do that, and I felt very
Yes.
empowered.
Okay, we
It
need
shouldn't be
to
about it.
we need to close this
Okay,
down.
we need to stop.
yeah.
Well,
Everybody
Yeah.
give in.
So
Good chatty.
Cynthia has
Good
told
chatty.
us what she's got coming up. Jen, what do you have coming up?
yeah, as I said earlier, I've got a video. It's about a mountain range in Western Australia called the Stirling Ranges, which is one of the top, depending on how you age it, it's either the 8th oldest mountain range in the world or the 3rd oldest mountain range in the world. There have been 2 different dating systems used, and they give almost 1 billion years different age in these mountain ranges, so that's why it shifts from one to the other. But it is very old. It's still reasonably high, but it was immensely higher in the past because it's completely weathered over that time. It's not a continually growing one. It had uplift several billion years ago, and it's come down since then. So it's been weathered down to the size it is. So in its heyday, it was up there with the Alps in its height. So very, very. So it's mountain range with a huge amount of history, and I'm doing a video on that. I went there and filmed footage and everything, and it's absolutely gorgeous, the footage. I was amazed. I had a really good day. It went from being summer to winter in the couple hours I was there. So the film footage totally changes in the way it is. It was absolutely brilliant. It was absolutely amazing. And then I will be doing another naked chat video where I talk about sex and relationships, because I've started enjoying doing those. That sounded wrong, given what I started the first one of those. I won't rephrase that. I'm not that.
Sounds good.
I don't care. And Depending on how I go over the next, I've been so busy with my niece being in hospital that and other family stuff that I haven't got any of this stuff finished yet. But I'm hoping to get the quiz show going soon. That Jeff and I had been working on, where we did a demo of it a few weeks ago. And I'm going to be organising a couple of guests where I'm actually planning on doing them as pre-records rather than a live show. That way we can nut it down to a decent half-hour-long show that's just got the best of the content in it, rather than us talking drivel for an hour and a half, which is what we did when we did the promo show. So that should be a bit of fun to see as well. So yeah, and I'll probably have a couple of live streams in between now and then, and I'll have a good talk to Julie about doing another feminist stream, because I think we should do that.
Okay, very good. B, do you have anything you want to shill for?
I will be on Critical Cripple's show on Friday at I'm gonna come in late, but yeah, I have to work into the show, but I'm gonna pop in later on. So that's on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and apparently Julie's gonna be there as well. Besides that, just keep an eye on Twitter and whatever else. I'm just gonna, anytime I have a good internet connection, I'm gonna try to do some random streams here and there. And in about 2 to 3 weeks, Cynthia and I will be doing another stream, because I'm just telling her, because I want to get on another stream with her. So we're gonna do that soon.
No worries.
On a Sunday.
You already know, B. You already know, B. It's all good.
Okay, very good. Julie.
Oh, I've achieved literally, that moment in a video game when it's like achievement unlocked. I've had 3 life achievement unlocks today. I got to interview Robert Reed. I got to be on a panel with Cynthia McDonald, who's one of my new favorite people. Honestly, I've been following you. It's not stalking, but I've been watching every stream you've been on, and I've been looking up all of this.
It's a little bit of stalking.
A little bit. I was telling Robert today, I was like, I was a history minor at the University of Memphis, in a city that is mostly that largely populated, like it's mostly African American, my city. Mm-hmm. And I was a history minor, and I cannot believe how whitewashed the history was. And every fact I checked of yours was right on. And you are so brilliant. And so that's the second one. So achievement unlocked, been on a panel with Cynthia, got to interview Robert Reed, and my born again Christian brother was in the chat during my show today, and was amazing, and he's always been like my protector and my hero, and we've always been close, even when we diverge on the the super big questions, like the God question, and so it was, yeah. So I'm just freaking high from happiness right now. I can't, I had, things have been rough, but today really, I've got Wine and Reason on Tuesday. Have no idea what that's going to be about yet. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's all good. I'll be on the quiz show on Friday, and I'm just so happy and grateful right now to be here and be with all of y'all. That's it.
Oh my gosh. Really, please, put your link and so I can subscribe to
Amiga
your
Nuts
channel.
is putting all of them in the chat. Amiga Nuts.
Yeah, they're all in there.
Thank
King
you.
of Shills, and he's got everybody up. He's got Julie. He's got Robert Reed. He's got Michael LaVoice.
That's my brother.
He's got Critical Cripple. He's got B. He's got everyone in there.
Yeah, he's done it.
That's why we love him. He is on the ball. I love it. Not
Yep.
like Dave's ball. That's a different ball, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
Cynthia, did you get to mention everything you wanted to with Robert's question, or do you have some more things to shill for?
Okay, yeah. So we do the 13% on YFNA News on YouTube every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time now. We also I'm supposed to be doing a Jeopardy on, oh crap, hold on, give me a minute. Whose channel is this on? Right.
I'll stop.
Right?
Hey now, lady.
Right,
You are so organized normally.
I know, right?
You got it.
On Atheist News. I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to be doing their I'm supposed to be doing his Jeopardy. I am so gonna lose. I already know. I watched what the last episode of the Jeopardy that they did. I was like, oh my god, these questions are so hard.
Just said in the background, right before you said that, it's such a hard game. Like,
I was just like, oh my god.
it's hard.
So I think that's supposed to be happening tomorrow, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
okay.
So yeah, it's supposed to be happening tomorrow at 6 Eastern, so 5 Central. So I'm looking forward to that and really bombing really hard on Jeopardy, but it's all good. I love that game show. And then yeah. Oh, and also please, like, you all check out my blog at adoshealthandwellness.com. I just put up an article I'm extremely proud of, talking about why violence should be declared a public health crisis.
Mm.
And and a lot of it has to do, because I live in, of course, Chicago, Illinois, and I live on the south side of Chicago, primarily a Black community. Even though, like, my specific community doesn't have a lot of violence, but communities that's not too far from me are high in violence, and a lot of them have a tendency to be very much so steeped in poverty. So I definitely talk about correlating poverty with violence, and even utilizing some portions of history in America where violence was very pervasive in certain areas because of rampant poverty and things of that nature. So check that out. And all that great stuff. So yeah, and thank you, Godless Franny, for
You're
having me
welcome.
on. I appreciate the invite.
I've seen some articles from
Thanks,
some
Granny.
pediatricians that have talked about domestic violence, and particularly child abuse, as
Mhm.
being a public health crisis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and for me personally, this week I will be finishing up Feeling Fruity 2. I did Feeling Fruity, which was an answer to a response to answers in Genesis, fruitful and not fruitless and not multiplying.
Or
Fruitless
fruitful and not multiplying, I think, is what they were. I don't know. I watched it.
No, I think
today.
it's
I couldn't remember.
fruitless and not
Sorry.
multiplying. But anyway, so I did a response and called it Feeling Fruity. But I only got halfway through it, and it took me 2 weeks to do that. And I'm working on the second half this week, but I've got a couple other things personally going on. So it'll probably be Saturday or Sunday before I'm finally able to release that. Next week, I have a very special show. Instead of being at 7 p.m., it's going to be at 4 p.m. because Faye the Most Gracious is going to be on. And
I love it.
yeah.
Awesome. Yes.
7 p.m. is 1 in the morning for her, and so we're going early. We're going at 4 p.m. next week, and it's going to be a panel of half atheists and half people who have spiritual beliefs. 2 of them are Christians, and there's one that is got to check a work schedule first. Well, it's Jay.
I was gonna say, you want me to hook you up with my brother? Because apparently he's around now.
Well, no, I was wanting Jay because he's a Buddhist.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm Buddhist too.
Really?
I'm a secular Buddhist, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is Jay. So if Jay can't make it, then I'll ask you, because Jay told me he has to check his work schedule. But anyway,
I don't know if he'll want to do it, but he might. He's been open to me.
well, I've already got the 2 Christians on.
That's right. And, I'm sorry. When you said I'm going to shut up now.
Okay. Anyway, so it's 4 o'clock, and we're going to discuss, is heaven real? And then the following week, I have something really special in the works, if it works, and that is I want a panel of believers and unbelievers again to discuss, is there a benefit to being a believer? And I have put out 2 really big asks, but I don't have answers yet. So I'm not going to drop names until I know for sure if I can get some responses from the big people that I have asked to be on those panels.
And Jay just said in the chat he should be there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Jay said he should be there. Wonderful. So yeah, we will have our our secular Buddhist, 2 Christians, 1 ex-Muslim, and 2 ex-Christians to discuss, is heaven real?
Ooh, I'm looking forward to hearing
Sounds
that
good,
one.
Granny. That's awesome.
That sounds really good.
Arthur says no benefit to being a believer. Done.
Oh, I would love to also say that again. That is my partner, baby. I love you so much, and he is also also a secular Buddhist as well, but he is also the self-proclaimed pope of atheism.
Ah,
All right. Well, Your Holiness, or Your Unholiness.
The unholiness, yes, indeed. and also,
doubt.
yeah, and also the other half of the 13%. That's the co-host also of the 13%.
Nice.
Okay, so thank you everyone in the chat for coming. Thank you, Amiga Nuts, for shilling for everyone. Thank you, Arthur, for being a new guest. Thank you, Never Again. Thank you, Nevermore Tavern, Robert X, Hans Hanzo, The Lone Wanderer, Inquisitive Quandary, God equals negative.
Square root of 1.
Square root of
Of
1.
negative 1.
Thank you.
Right.
I haven't found that. Jake 4D. Who else? Who did I miss? Aunt Jur. Ricardo Oliveira. Yeah.
Ricardo.
But yeah,
Ricardo, yes.
Ricardo.
Love me some Ricardo. Hey.
I
Yes.
know. He's awesome. He's a great.
Yeah.
guy.
Thank
He
you, everyone, for
over 1,000 views on that video of mine.
Okay. So with
Granny,
that-
thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah. So with that,
Yeah.
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.